Hello, this is Tim Law with Playing It Forward Coaching and always encouraging your self-reliance in your life and career. If you'll set a goal by developing a marketing skill, as well as chase that skill with a solid work ethic, develop some people skills, go the extra mile, your life will open up in ways that you can't possibly imagine. A big thank you to over 400 people that have subscribed to this channel, Playing It Forward Coaching. If you haven't already, please do so. I have a very important guest that I want to speak with today, a gentleman named Darrell Haemer, who actually is technically my brother's son-in-law, married to my wonderful niece, Devin. And so, Darrell, welcome. Tell us a little bit about your story, and we'll do a little Q&A here.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you having me on. It's great to be part of this. And I know the work that you do is really outstanding for a lot of young people and what they're trying to do with their lives. So, and my story isn't all that different in some ways. Traditional education, art and technology with a master's in higher education, was going in multiple directions all the time. So I've ended up doing a lot of design work in the digital world, print world, video, and ended up in the communications field. I've worked in higher education, a little bit all over the place. And so through all those years, really still trying to answer that ever elusive question, what should I really be doing? What's the thing that I'm made for? And at one point I did receive some life coaching from a great friend, great life coach, Andy Kerr. And coming out of that process, that really brought about a lot of change in my life. And that actually was a catalyst for me writing my book, changing my work life largely. And of course, that always filters back into our personal lives as well.
Yeah, and then the title of that book, Darrell, you can say it for us.
Yeah, it's called Changing Change. And of course, that's by me. And that came out of my experience in the work world. After years of working in all kinds of different businesses, I began seeing some patterns around me that were problematic. And I started asking a lot of questions about work, productivity, leadership and management. What's it mean to be productive? What's it mean for an organization to function well? And why do I see so many people around me working in ways that they are being frustrated with their work and what they're trying to do? And I found that all those answers kept leading me back to this concept of change, and that's really at the root of a lot of those issues. And so I decided to write a book about it. I felt that there might be something there that I could help people out with. So that's what that came out of. But that coaching that I received was a turning point to head me in that direction. It was always in the back of my mind. I thought, maybe someday, but I don't know that I would have done it without having someone in my life who could really present me with some pointed questions and some inspiration and encouragement in the right direction.
Sure. So it's really impressive, Darrell, that you've done a lot of different, looked in a lot of different directions, because my Devin's grandmother, my mom, always said, Tim, it's just important to find out what you don't want to do as it is to find out what you do want to do. And I mean, she was known, she and my dad both were known for, a lot of wisdom, that's for sure. And so where would you say your main passion is right now, your particular direction, after looking at in a variety of areas? Because you're a young guy in your mid-30s or so. You're in a position where a lot of other people, your age are, and older and younger for that matter. Where would you say your main passion has kind of landed you?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. And I think it's sort of connected to the common question that so many people have out there is, but back to that, what is the thing for me? And it has taken what feels like a really long time for me to sort through this. But I think finally I've become much more comfortable with the idea that there doesn't have to be one thing. We don't need to find the golden ticket so to speak, for each of our lives, that we're only allowed to do one thing with our lives. And that can be difficult. It's a bit countercultural. The workforce doesn't always encourage that in people. You know, they don't really want people, you know, they want people who have specialized in one thing, and they want to hire that person to do that one thing, and for them to not be distracted by anything else. But there are issues that come along with that. But so I've finally become more comfortable with this idea that I really can have multiple emphases in my life in terms of work. And I really do have that going on. I still do a lot of design work. I do 3D visualization and design kitchens and do drafting prints. And I still do design for print and digital design and video as well. But I now do custom woodworking as well. And I've integrated that into my business and have that as kind of a second branch of my business. And of course, writing my book was sort of a third branch at the time with the effort that takes. So I've gone in different directions, and I really don't consider one necessarily more important than the other.
Sure, sure. Well, and the idea of having multiple streams of income or whatever certainly makes sense as well, because you know, being a good solid woodworker, for example, is certainly a good skill that's not in there by, you know, huge numbers of people. So it's certainly something that, you know, and I go back, there was a guy named Earl Nightingale years ago. He had a great quote on basically value creation. It says, our rewards in life, meaning financial, are based on the goods and services we can provide for others and how easy or difficult we are to replace in the market. And I use the extreme example of, let's say, a gas station being run in New Jersey where you have somebody come out and pump your gas. Take you maybe 5 minutes to learn that skill, and the rest of us in Pennsylvania and other places, we already do it, versus somebody who spent 10, 12 years to become a good heart or brain surgeon. And, you know, the difference, obviously, they're two extremes, but the value creation of, you know, the heart and brain surgeon, because they are so rare, so many of them get washed out before they even get there, that it's a good way to look at, you know, okay, what am I doing to increase my value out there in the market, doing something that, you know, other people, you know, can use.
Yeah, totally. I think, well, me coming from a liberal arts educational background, this might sound apropos for that, but I do believe it's more valuable for most people to not focus as much on what they're learning, but learning how to learn, so that you can become a lifelong learner. And
yes, sir.
And not focusing as much on what work you're doing, but how you're doing the work that you're doing. Because if you can learn how to work well, how to work properly, and how to work hard and diligently, then you'll be able to carry that over into any job. And those are skills and character traits that are going to be valued by any employer in any market.
Yeah, totally agree. And ironically, and I'll point you to a guy that I did an interview on, a guy named Mitchell Earl. He's actually at the top of my Playing It Forward coaching video group, because he has a thing called the Praxis, Praxis internship program, where he's working with people that have either possibly started college or not decided to go on to college, and they're coming through an apprenticeship program, because there's a lot of jobs out there where you really don't need that degree. Obviously, you need a degree to be, you know, a lawyer or a doctor, or, you know, any of the medical field. You've got to have those particular skills. But there's a lot of jobs out there where you really don't need that. So I'm throwing a plug in there with Mitchell Earl's interview that we did. It's about 13 minutes, and it is really powerful, because it deals with so many of these young people thinking they have to go off to college, and then they get buried in this huge debt, getting a degree that really isn't marketable, and they're trying to pay it off with you know, lower wages. And very, very frustrating trap is what it's turned into.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And the only thing I'll add to that is that to encourage people to not be afraid to try things. And I think we're seeing a healthier culture in terms of that maybe the internet and social media has brought about and encouraged somewhat, but we still are pretty deeply rooted in that traditional educational life flow. That, well, if you want to do substantial things with your life, then you're going to need a college education. And sometimes that might be true. And don't misunderstand that. I really think college education is valuable, and
Mhm.
people can really get a lot from that. But people can do more than they believe they can
Mhm.
without formal education. And I just want to encourage people to try that. If you have an idea in your head, whether it's writing a book or starting a business or creating an invention or self-educating, then just try it.
Mhm.
Start putting together a plan and really just start putting in the work and
Mhm.
see what happens with it.
Sure, sure. No, it makes a lot of sense absolutely. What advice, Darrell, would you give, teens, young adults, and you probably just kind of touched on it a little bit, but other things you might add to them, uh, as far as, their life path or whatever.
Yeah. I would say we need people. I'm extremely introverted. So
You're
for
not that way around some of the family reunions, Darrell, as I recall. You always laugh at my brother Tom and my jokes, which really makes us feel pretty good.
right, right. But for me to say that we really need people in our lives, we need community in our lives, is substantial, because I can be very solitary. I can work
Mhm.
days or weeks or months at a time without really much interaction with other people. But we do need that, and especially if we are trying to undertake something out of the traditional pathways that are kind of laid out for us. Because let's be honest, the traditional pathways in life are kind of the easy, those are the easy flowing rivers, right?
Yes.
If we want to branch off of those, we're going to need help.
Mhm.
So if you're looking into doing something like this, try to seek out people in your life who can encourage you in that endeavor. And
Mhm.
that can be difficult to do, because to find people who really want to encourage you in something that you might fail at,
Mhm.
or that might be really difficult, might take a long time, it can be really difficult to find those people. But keep looking, try to find one person, and maybe it ends up being a coach of some kind. You
Mhm.
might need to seek out a specific person who facilitates people in these kinds of endeavors. But try to find just one person, if you can, who can come along with you on that ride. And equally important, don't listen to everyone else.
Yeah.
uh, because you will get discouraging feedback when you try
Mhm.
to do something like this. You will get lots of people who don't believe in what you're doing, who don't believe you can be successful with it, who
Mhm.
don't believe it's worth your time and it's worth going outside those traditional pathways. Don't listen to them.
That's certainly a great advice there. And basically, what you're referring to is a term I learned from Tony Robbins, which is positive modeling. Find somebody who's done exactly or close to what you want to do, whether it's through a book or one-on-one mentorship or anything like that, and basically model and do pretty much exactly what they did to get that so you can get a similar result. So yeah.
Yes.
Well, Darrell, this has been fantastic. Any last second thoughts? Do you have one of your books with you by any chance next to you?
I do have one here, actually.
Okay, yeah, put it up
This
there.
is what it looks like.
Yes, and I've read it. It is outstanding. So we
Thank
definitely
you.
want to make sure that we put a plug in here for Changing Change.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Thanks for taking the time out to talk with me.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure. And anyway, do appreciate you. If you could hang for a minute or two when we get done here, we'll chat for a little bit. And
All right.
thank you, Darrell. Appreciate it very, very much.